Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pete CD Vinyl World. Back after another brief hiatus. So now today I'm going to make a video ranking the albums of David Lee Roth solo. I haven't seen a lot of people do that or really talk about his albums, and recently just got his last album, so figured I could do that with him. Actually, only has 7 releases throughout his career, so his solo career started in '86, so that's been 35 years. So in general, it's about every 5 years, but his first, 3 releases came out within the first, actually 4 releases came out within the first 5 years or so. So he hasn't had too many albums. In fact, his last album is 2003. So besides Different Kind of Truth from Van Halen, he hasn't released an album in almost 20 years. So a little background. I was a huge Van Halen fan as a kid. His first EP, Crazy from the Heat, came out when I was about 10, I believe. If everyone, it doesn't seem that way now, but if you remember back when he released that EP, he had not left Van Halen yet. So, in a way, when California Girls and Just a Gigolo came out, I mean, it was, for the Van Halen fans, it was almost a little embarrassing that he was sort of doing that thing, and almost became like a vaudeville type act, something that your parents would like or your grandparents. So when I found out that he wasn't, rejoining Van Halen or going to be on their next album, in a way it was kind of a relief, because if he had joined the band, who knows what direction they would have went in. And it was kind of a relief because the Van Halen fans could at least say, oh, look what that idiot's doing now. He's doing all these stupid videos and all these covers, unbeknownst to us that he was going to come out with his first full solo album, Eat 'Em and Smile, which was his most Van Halen-like album he ever made. So at that time, we sort of had the best of both worlds. We had Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, and we had David Lee Roth with Steve Vai doing a really good Van Halen impression, sort of. So anyway, like I said, 7 releases. Let me get started with my ranking. And of course, my lowest one is going to be his first EP, Crazy from the Heat. What can you say about this except California Girls is an okay cover, I guess. Just a Gigolo is kind of goofy. Easy Street and Coconut Grove are okay. It's kind of just, really, I think this was a vehicle for a movie he was supposed to produce and star in with the same title. It never came to be, obviously. And I think because of this, Ted Templeman produced this, and he didn't go on to work with Van Halen after this for that reason. But as I said previously, when this came out, it was pretty embarrassing to the Van Halen fans. In a way, it was good that he didn't join the band. Coming up next, number 6 is his last album, Diamond Dave. So this one, I remember vaguely hearing about this when it came out. I had heard it was an all covers album, but it's actually not all covers. There are some original songs on here. You Got the Blues, Not Me, Make Up Your Mind are still pretty good songs. His guitar player he has on here is actually pretty good. I don't recall his name at the time. He does a lot of covers on here. Shoe Bop, If 6 Was 9, Soul Kitchen, that Beatles tune, which is actually Tomorrow Never Knows. He does another version of Ice Cream Man, which is sort of like a not Broadway, like a Vegas style thing. It's not terrible as you would think. I mean, you could tell it's real low budget just from the cover. It actually sounds pretty good, and ironically, I got this at a yard sale a few weeks ago for $1, and if you look this up on eBay, this is like a $35 CD, actually, so I guess it's never been released, and it's obviously never been on vinyl, but just like all of his albums, there, even his worst one like this, there's still several enjoyable tracks on here. So that's that one. Next up, I'm going with his. What year did this come out? I can't even see. 1994 release, Your Filthy Little Mouth. This one is produced by Nile Rodgers, and I believe that this was his attempt to get into a more, I don't want to say mainstream, but taken seriously as a mature artist. He's gotten rid of sort of all the any ties to Van Halen sound. His guitar player on here is actually really good. I can't recall his name at the time, Terry something. And I believe he was a high school friend. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he has a real more stripped down bluesy tone. It sounds like all the guitars were recorded on either a Telecaster or a Strat. It's produced by Nile Rodgers, so the drums actually sound really good on here. She's My Machine was the opening song. That had some airplay, at least here in the New York, New Jersey area. It's a pretty good song. A Little Luck was okay. You're Breathing It was a pretty good song. Your Filthy Little Mouth is a pretty good song. A lot of these albums have almost like a couple songs that lean towards the like cheesy country Americana sound. In fact, he even has Travis Tritt on a track on here, Your Cheating Heart Cafe. I don't know why he's never been known to have like a big country influence, but for some reason his 90s albums, even his latest one, all have a couple songs that have that sort of cheesy like late 80s, early 90s movie soundtrack country feel to them. Not sure what he's going for with that. It's got a urban remix of You're Breathing It at the end, which is okay. But yeah, I guess since this wasn't that successful, he sort of just went into touring mode after this. But it's, like I said, all of his albums I think are worth picking up if you can find them pretty cheap. There's some good stuff on all of them. Next up, coming in at number 4, that would be the DLR Band album. So this came out in 98, and to me this is a direct response to Van Halen not reuniting with him. If you remember, he did those 2 songs with Van Halen for the Best of Volume 1 soundtrack, Best of compilation, and he appeared with them at the VMAs that year, and it was assumed that he was going to do a reunion tour with them. But the Van Halen brothers weren't crazy about the way he was acting, this and that. So they decided to go with Gary Cherone. So what does David Lee Roth do? He gets John 5 and tries to make the best Van Halen album he can. Slam Dunk was a song that was played a lot on rock radio, sort of cross between sort of like Hot for Teacher and I'm the One maybe. But there's a lot of other good hard rock songs on here that actually don't sound like Van Halen, but sort of a modern hard rock sound. Counterblast, King of the Hill, Wah Wah Zat, Relentless, Weekend with the Babysitter, Black Sand, all pretty good songs. He has John 5 on guitar here, which the guitar playing is awesome. But again, just like this album and the next one coming up, it's a bit too long. I believe there's 14 tracks on here, and about, I would say at least 3 or 4 of them are kind of throwaways. I think this is kind of hard to find now as well. I don't believe this was ever released on vinyl. Let me know if it has. It's put out by Wah Wah Zat Records, whatever that is. You can see how low budget it is just from the cover. Spent about $30 to make that. But actually the production's not bad and it sounds pretty good as well. So you can't knock him for that. But yeah, this is definitely his attempt to make a Van Halen album, I guess. Next up, number 3, going with his 91 album, A Little Late Enough. This one, ironically, has more of a Van Halen-esque sound than his second album, Skyscraper. He has Jason Becker on guitar. If you follow the guitar world at all, Jason Becker was diagnosed with ALS right after they recorded this album, so he wasn't able to do the tour. A couple of years after that, he pretty much has become, I believe, paralyzed from the neck down, and hasn't even been able to play guitar shortly after this album. And they designed some sort of system where he can actually compose music using his eyes and facial expressions, and it does it through some computer, but he's still alive, actually. There's a video on YouTube of Eddie Van Halen visiting him I guess it's sometime in the late 90s, and he gives him a guitar and everything. But back to this album, I don't want to say it's a hair metal sound. It's more of post hair metal. It's produced by Bob Rock, so it has this big, huge Dr. Feelgood sound, which is great. I would say half the songs on this are really good. The rest are just okay. A Little Ain't Enough is a great song. Lady Luck, Hammerhead Shark. Sensible Shoes, there was a video for that on MTV. It was kind of a terrible song to pick as a single. A Little Ain't Enough was a single also, but didn't do much. The last 2 tracks on here, It's Showtime and Drop in the Bucket, were co-written by Jason Becker, and those are the ones where he really gets to rip on guitar. He's, I would say, closer to a Paul Gilbert style guitar player than Eddie Van Halen or Steve Vai, but definitely has a great tone, and it's a great production on here. Actually, Steve Hunter from the Alice Cooper Band, he joined on Welcome to My Nightmare and stayed with him through the late 70s. He co-writes a lot of songs on here. So I don't know if he had a relationship with Bob Rock or how that came to be, but kind of odd that he's written a bunch of songs on here. This one did come out on vinyl. I'm assuming it's pretty hard to find because this is 91. This is the very, very tail end of the hard rock, hair metal movement. I think this album only went gold. It did get a little bit of MTV airplay. And unfortunately, when he toured for this album, they sort of packaged him with like Extreme and a couple other, hair bands at the time, which didn't help him, which is why I think he went in the direction with this album, tried to get away from this totally. But this is still a high quality, well-produced album. Coming in at number 2, my order from here is pretty predictable, is his second album, Skyscraper. So this is pretty much the same lineup as his first album, Eat 'Em and Smile. Steve Vai, Billy Sheehan on guitar, bass. But a lot more keyboards in here, a lot more production. Knucklebones is a pretty good opener. Just Like Paradise was the first single. I was never crazy about that song. Too poppy for me. Damn Good is a sort of a 12-string acoustic song. Perfect Timing, I think, is one of the better songs on the album. Overall, it's a pretty good, solid album. It doesn't have the issues that the other ones have, where there's too many songs. It's 10 songs, so it's a pretty enjoyable album. This is one album where I had this on CD for years, since the early 90s. I originally had it on cassette, but a few years ago I found a vinyl copy of it, and it's one of these albums that when you listen to it on vinyl, it's a totally different, it sounds so much better and so much more alive than the CD. So if you happen to see this on vinyl, it's definitely worth picking up. But I don't know what he was thinking, even with the cover of this. I guess I'm not sure what type of management he's had since he's become a solo artist, but the direction he goes in sometimes is sort of not very productive as far as advancing his career. And of course, the number 1 is Eat 'Em and Smile. This one is a classic from top to bottom. You can argue that, as Some people think this is better than anything Van Halen did with Hagar. You could definitely argue with that. Yankee Rose, Shy Boy, which was an old Talis song, that band that Billy Sheehan was in. Going Crazy, of course, was a big hit. Tobacco Road is a cover of an old classic. Again, though, just like all of the other albums, there's a little bit of cheesy stuff on here. He does a cover of, not a cover, I'm Easy, sort of an old-time song, and he does a cover of That's Life at the end. Would have been better if he just stuck to a strictly a Van Halen-esque album, but I guess he was still trying to stick in that Crazy from the Heat era stuff. Produced by Ted Templeman. It's got a really raw sound, almost like everything bass, drums, guitar was recorded live. I believe most of the songs only have like 1 or 2 guitar tracks, which is completely the opposite direction of where Steve Vai went after this. It's his most organic and like raw tone, I think, guitar-wise. After this album and Skyscraper, he sort of went into that very processed sound, which even was on his solo album. So this is definitely the one album I suggest getting from David Lee Roth if you weren't interested in getting the rest of them. It's definitely a must own. So there you have it. There's my number 1. Let me know what your order is or what you think about some of his albums. And if you like these videos, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.